Today we're going to be changing the engine oil and oil filter on a 2014 Polaris RZR800. We'll be following right along with this machine's owner's manual, and it's important that the engine oil and oil filter are changed according to the periodic maintenance chart located inside your manual. The tools we're going to need for this job are first your machine's service or owner's manual, and then we're also going to need an oil drain pan, some shop rags, a ratchet and 6mm Allen key, a torque wrench, oil filter wrench, a small funnel, and finally some fresh oil and a new oil filter. And for this we have plenty of different options for you to choose from. You can pick your desired oil filter and oil separately, or you have convenient kits available to make your job a little easier. The first one is straight from Polaris, and it includes a Polaris OEM oil filter and Polaris oil. The other option is the TUS kit, which includes your new oil filter and the recommended oil for your machine, along with a new crush washer for your drain plug. And this is the kit we'll be using for this machine. So to begin, you'll notice we've got this machine pulled up onto some maintenance ramps to make this process a little easier and to better show the steps. This oil change can be done with the machine sitting on the ground, so if you decide to suspend your machine, it'll be up to you to safely support your machine so no injuries or damage occurs during this process. So we'll go ahead and start our machine and let it idle for roughly 2 to 3 minutes. This is going to suspend any contaminants in the oil and allow the oil to drain out a little easier. Go ahead and shut the machine off, and then we're going to remove both the seats. Once we have those out of the way, we can now release the 2 quarter-turn fasteners holding the rear service panel in place. Go ahead and remove that. Doing that's going to give us access to the oil dipstick and fill tube. So depending on which machine you're working on, the location of the drain plug and oil filter may vary from what's shown on this 800. For these locations on your machine, you can simply refer back to your manual. So we're going to go ahead and back out this drain plug using our 6mm Allen head and ratchet. We'll first break it loose with the ratchet and then back it out the rest of the way using our hands. Make sure you've got your drain pan in place, and then you can pull the plug. We're going to go ahead and let that oil drain, and one thing you'll want to check is to make sure the old crush washer came out with the drain plug. It's common for these to stick to the case, so if yours did, just use a pick or screwdriver to carefully remove it. So while we're letting the rest of that oil drain out, we're going to make sure our drain plug is clean and the threads are in good shape. And then we'll reinstall our new crush washer that was supplied in our TUS oil change kit onto our drain plug. It may take some time for all the oil to evacuate the crankcase, but once it does, we can carefully reinstall the drain plug by hand, and then we'll use our torque wrench to snug it down to 16 foot-pounds. So now we have our drain plug with the new crush washer installed and torqued down. We can now move on to replacing the oil filter. For this, we're going to need an oil filter wrench, and there's a few different styles to choose from, but we chose to use the Motion Pro oil filter strap wrench. This is a pretty universal tool because you can use it on just about any sized external oil filter. So we're going to start by placing a rag underneath the filter to catch any oil that spills out after we remove it. After that, we'll go ahead and slide the strap wrench over the filter, and then we're going to roll the strap up in the direction we want the filter to turn. In this case, we're removing the filter, so we're going to roll it counterclockwise. Now all we have to do is connect a 3/8" drive ratchet and continue to turn the tool. The strap's going to cinch down around the filter until it's tight enough to start loosening the filter. Usually when you break it free, you can go ahead and remove the tool and then finish removing the filter with your hands. The coolant hose on your machine might be routed a little differently than it is on this 800, but you can see this hose makes it difficult to get at the oil filter. We had to lift the filter up and raise it up over this hose in order to remove it from this machine. But now that we have the old filter out of the way, we're going to make sure this sealing surface is clean and free of any dents or scratches, and then we can move on to preparing our new filter for installation. So using a little oil, we're going to lube up the sealing O-ring on the new filter, and this just allows the O-ring to slide on the sealing surface instead of getting bound up, preventing a proper seal. So now we'll go ahead and install the new filter onto the machine, and you'll want to continue turning the filter until you feel the O-ring start to contact the sealing surface on the engine. Once it does, Polaris recommends you turn it an additional half turn to seat the O-ring. You'd normally do all this by hand, but since this filter is difficult to access, we couldn't really get our hands in there to turn it anymore. So we're going to use this tool to give it the additional half turn. Just a quick tip, after your next ride on the machine, this is something you'll want to come back and check and make sure the filter is still tight. Now this filter's been properly installed, the next step is to add our oil. So we're going to move back up, go ahead and unlock the dipstick and then pull it out. And on this machine, this tube also acts as the fill tube for the oil. So we'll use a small funnel, and we had to tip it up a little bit while we add the recommended 2 quarts of oil to this engine. Refer to your manual for oil capacity specific to your machine. With this small tube, it takes a little patience, but once all the oil has been added, we'll reinstall the dipstick and lock it down. After that, we're going to start the engine and let it idle for a few minutes. And while it's circulating that new oil, we're going to check for leaks around the engine. Make sure you check the new filter and the drain bolt. This engine looks good, so we'll go ahead and shut the engine off and we're ready to check the oil level. To do this properly, we'll first unlock the dipstick and pull it out. We're going to clean it off and then reinstall it all the way without locking it down. Pull it back out, and you can see this oil level is sitting inside the safe range, so we know we're good. The oil level is something you want to check before every ride, and to get an accurate reading, the machine needs to be sitting on a level surface, and you also need to check the level on the top side of the dipstick, as the level is going to read slightly higher on the bottom side. If your level read a little low, go ahead and add any needed oil to bring the level into the safe range. After that, you can reinstall the dipstick and lock it down. Next, we'll reinstall the access panel, secure it down. After that comes both seats, and then this machine is ready to ride. For all the products and tools needed to properly maintain your machine, visit our website www.rockymountainatvmc.com. Thanks for watching.